you guys can guess what happened. I received that dreaded email that says
Payment dispute.
and I was furious.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Biscuit Butt. My name is Archie. For those of you that have never been to the channel before, and frankly, for those of you that have been to my channel and my subscribers, I am so sorry I haven't put out a video in a while, so you probably forgot who I am. But my name is Archie. I am a full-time reseller. I sell mainly on eBay. I also sell on some of the local platforms such as Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and the Nextdoor app. Welcome back. And if this is your first time, thank you very much. You're not going to want to miss what I have to speak about today. It is the dreaded chargeback. And the technical name that most of us probably, if we've ever had to deal with this, know it from on eBay, because we get that sickening email and the heading on top says
Payment dispute.
and all of our dreams just become shattered. We get a little angry and our heart just is sick. And I'm going to discuss today the situation that I had to deal with recently. I'm also going to let you know the outcome. And then I'm also going to discuss things that you can do to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. And then I'm also going to discuss just some of the things that I did to prepare myself to give them the answer. Now, I'm sure most of you watching this probably do know what a chargeback is, but for those of you that don't, or that need to be re-familiar with what it is, now I'm going to be talking from the eBay side of it. I don't know how other platforms deal with this, but when a buyer goes to their payment institution, and it's usually their credit card or their bank, and then sometimes it's even a third party such as PayPal, but they go to their institution that they paid with and they file what we call a chargeback, which is basically telling the credit card institution that they aren't happy with the transaction and that they basically want their money back and that they've exhausted everything that they could with the seller. Now, I know that's not always the case. Sometimes they don't even get a hold of the seller, but in my situation, they actually did. And then you have to actually then present your case to the payment processor, and then they will make an outcome. And it usually takes anywhere from 2 weeks to up to 8 weeks sometimes. Most of us probably have a 30-day return window. Chargebacks, the window is up to 120 days. So they have 4 months to actually put in a payment dispute. So with all that said, let me tell you how my situation started.
So let's get into this. Now, I sold this Lemax Spooky Town building on August 25th, and I actually shipped it out on the 28th, and it was delivered on September 6th, somewhere in New Hampshire, Lebanon, New Hampshire. Now, I don't know about you all, but one thing I do not do is I do not waste my time vetting every buyer, where it's going, what their feedback is. I just don't do that. I don't have time, and it's just pointless to even worry about that. And this will make a little more sense later on in the story about me not vetting where it's going. But anyway, so I shipped it all out. They received it. I've had about 15 of these Spooky Town buildings that I sold over like a 3-month span. So when I received an email from this particular buyer on October 24th, it didn't really put up any red flags or anything like that, because I had sold some of these Spooky Town buildings less than 30 days prior. So the buyer basically sent me an email and said, I'll put it right here, but basically, hey, there are some issues, some pieces broken, and I just want a refund. And I responded with, no problem, just go ahead and put in a refund request. And as soon as I receive the item back, I will gladly refund fully. Now, I sent that email and I didn't even look at the transaction before I sent that email, but my curiosity got me and I decided to go ahead and look up that particular transaction because he did send me some pictures and I just wanted to compare. So while I was investigating this particular transaction, I noticed that I sold this nearly 2 months prior. And now the red flags were going off because this buyer was telling me that they just received it. And that just made no sense to me. Now, I have a 30-day return window. On larger items such as this, though, I will always still put that the buyer must pay the return, because the one thing that I was trying to prevent was somebody just renting my item for Halloween and then sending it back. But after I sent that first email and after I realized that this person bought this 2 months ago, I immediately sent them another email stating, hey, I did a little more research and I found out that this item was sold to you 2 months ago and my return window is only 30 days. So that buyer then returned an email to me basically saying, I don't care what the window is. It's still your fault. You send it to me broken. I want a refund. I did a little more research and I found out that the place that I shipped it to is actually a third-party company that ships overseas on behalf of these buyers. So I shipped it to somewhere in New Hampshire. This was not bought on an international sale, which if it was, then I would have sent it to the central hub that eBay has, and then they would have taken it from there, and any returns would have been done through eBay. But that is not what happened in this particular situation. They actually purchased it from me, had me ship it to this third-party shipping company, and then they in turn shipped it to them, which now makes sense on why it took 2 months for them to even get it. So I wrote them another email and said, look, I also see that you had this shipped to a third-party shipper that then shipped it to you in Italy. And I said, unfortunately, is not my issue. You will need to go through your third-party shipping company and they will need to actually take care of this for you. Because frankly, I just don't think it's my responsibility because they shipped it all the way to Italy. Anything could have happened to that. My guess is that's where all these broken pieces actually occurred, because if I would have shipped it to this third-party company, I'm sure that they open it up, they inspect it before they ship it off, and they would have already said something as far as it having missing pieces or broken or anything, because then I could have probably started from that day that they actually received it on September 6th, and I could have started a possible insurance claim through the post office. But again, that just wasn't afforded to me. So anyway, went back and forth with this particular buyer a few times, and finally they went ahead and still put in the return request, which I received, and I immediately denied because it was outside the window. So I did have the option of whether I wanted to accept it or not. So I went ahead and declined it, and then immediately, you guys can guess what happened. I received that dreaded email that says payment dispute, and I was furious. So at this point, I just ceased all communication with the buyer anyway, because now it's not going to get me anywhere, and I have to deal actually not even really with eBay other than getting them the information that they need in a timely manner, which I think they gave me October 30th to get all my information to. But now I'm really at the mercy of their payment processor. So what I did was the next day I called eBay. I just wanted a little more information, and thankfully I did get a rep from the US. And the only reason I say thankfully is because I think we all know that sometimes when you get that rep that is from the Philippines or somewhere else in another country, we tend to always get canned responses. And I feel that for me, it's better sometimes to get these US reps because a lot of them are sellers themselves. So they kind of know what we're going through, and you're more likely to get logical answers instead of just that scripted answer. So anyway, I got an actual US rep and I told him my situation, and he said, hey, you know what? Let me put you on hold real quick and let me look into this, because one thing I know is that a lot of the payment processing companies, especially PayPal, they are starting to vet some of these transactions a little more and not necessarily always just side with their customer. So he said, so let me look into this. I'll get right back with you. So 5 minutes later, he comes back to me and he's like, hey, I don't know if this is good news or not, but it looks like they paid through PayPal. So my suggestion is you definitely want to get as much information to PayPal as possible, because I'm not telling you what the outcome will be, but I do believe you're going to have a better chance of possibly getting the outcome you want. So, I mean, that didn't really get my hopes up too much, but it gave me enough hope to still want to at least fight for this. Now, they give you up to, I think, 5 photos but you can write up to, I think, 5,000 characters, if I remember right. So you can tell them your side of the story and then what's going on. And then you can upload photos. So knowing that, again, I didn't have my hopes up, but I'm going to fight this. And one thing a lot of you may know too, though, that fighting this can also cost you an extra $20 fee for losing. And I was okay with taking that chance. But I just did not feel like this was right, and I'm going to fight for my right.
You gotta fight for your right!
What I decided I was going to do was I was going to use almost every character that I could when I wrote out my side of the story, and then I was going to upload as many pictures as I could. So what I did was I felt like I needed to explain to them when I sent this item out that I have a 30-day return window, that this particular buyer had me ship it to a third-party company, in which I fulfilled my part to eBay, and then they took it upon themselves to have that third-party company ship it to them in Italy. And I also wanted to show proof with some of the screenshots, as I will pop up some of these throughout the video. I wanted to make it very clear to PayPal, the onus of this situation should be on the buyer and the buyer only, because I did my part. It was shipped in the condition that I had it, and I portrayed it in the listing to the third-party company. Now, what happened from the third-party company to Italy, I have no idea. We all know that things get thrown around, and that's kind of a long place to ship to. So in my opinion, the buyer needed to take responsibility.
So getting back to my response, I took 3 screenshots. The first one was a profile screenshot from eBay that basically just shows the day that they actually started their account on eBay, but it also shows their location, and it showed Italy. So I wanted to point that out. Then the second screenshot that I took was of the order details. Now, that showed the date of the purchase, the date that it was delivered, and the address that it was delivered to, along with the phone number. And then the third screenshot that I took was actually of the return request that showed the date that they initiated it, which was 2 months later. And on all of these screenshots, what I did was I actually went into the text and I actually typed in pertinent information that I felt like they needed, or I put some arrows just to show them exactly what I wanted them to see from these screenshots. And after I uploaded those screenshots, and then I finished my description as far as my account of why I believe that I should win this chargeback, it was basically a waiting game from there. So once you send that, then you get a response that says your response has been submitted, and this usually takes anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks. So now it was just really a waiting game. Now, I got to be honest with you, I personally just went ahead and kissed all this money goodbye. They had already taken it out of my account and they put it on hold. So the money was already gone. Here's one thing that I forgot to tell you guys was when I was speaking with that particular rep, he did tell me that now some of these payment institutions, and especially the third-party ones like PayPal, are now giving an option to have it returned. And that's actually great news. It actually gave me an option where I just had to toggle it over saying that I would like the item back. I don't even know how that process would even begin to happen, but just know that it seems like they are doing things to help also protect the sellers going forward. It took nearly a month, but I finally got the answer. And I'm not going to lie, at first, I was scared to open it because I just did not want to know what the answer was, even though I've already settled with the fact that I've just kissed that money goodbye. But to my surprise, it was actually decided in my favor. And to be honest with you, it actually gave me a lot more hope knowing in the future that third-party companies just aren't looking out for their customers, but they're actually looking at this objectively and making decisions based on what's right. And that is great news that I think most of us need to hear, that all hope isn't gone when you get that dreaded payment dispute. So now that we hear that my outcome was a success, that doesn't mean that every single one of these payment disputes will go in your favor. I hope it does, especially if you did nothing wrong and it's a buyer that's doing something nefarious or deceitful. Now, in my case, I don't believe that that's what happened at all. I truly believe that this buyer received something that was broken. He sent me pictures and he had every right to be upset about it. But it's not me that he should have been upset with. It should have been about the fact that he decided to go through a third party. Whereas if he would have just done this through eBay, they would have been covered. I would have been covered. Neither one of us would have had to deal with this headache and they would have gotten their money back. So, with all that said, what would I suggest going forward to help protect yourself from actually getting any payment disputes in the future? Now, the first thing you always want to do is you want to always make sure you have the right title. You want to have clear pictures, as many pictures as you definitely can put into your listing. They give you an option to put 24, put 24 pictures in there, especially if it's a higher end item. And to me, $110 is a higher end item. So I made sure I had every picture possible also. Also, you want to make sure that in the description that you're being very clear with any flaws. Make sure that the description is very clear as far as what it does, what it's about. I personally do not like using the new AI feature. If you've had success with it, perfect. I personally don't like to use it because I find many flaws in it. But definitely make sure that your description is right on and it gives the buyer no reason to ever have to claim that you didn't describe it correctly. Also, what I would suggest in order for this to not happen to you from an international buyer is I would actually turn on the international shipping. Because here's the thing, once you ship it to the eBay hub, it's out of your hands. As long as it gets there in the same condition that you shipped it, eBay takes the responsibility from there on. I had it turned on. I don't know why this buyer, other than they were probably saving money and VAT fees and possibly shipping. I'm not sure, but turn that on. Now, again, I said earlier today that I don't vet every address that I ship to, and I don't recommend that you do that either. So I don't know how I would have prevented that, but the fact that I knew once I received that payment dispute to look into it enough to know that that is where it went, I think that helped save me and help me win this particular case. If I would have lost this case, I look at things that I could have possibly done to also make sure that I might have been protected. But again, in the end, the buyer still had some days left to put in a payment dispute. But I could have gone ahead and accepted that return, knowing that there's no way in 30 days I'm probably going to get it back, because the buyer would literally have to ship it all the way back to this third party company, because I'm only responsible for a return label from Lebanon, New Hampshire to me, not from Italy to me. So he would have had to figure out a way to get it there and back to me within 30 days. But like I said earlier, that's no guarantee though that payment dispute window wasn't going to close. But my suggestion to you would be to make sure you always have returns turned on also, because returns are very important as far as seller protections. Now, most of your possible payment disputes may come still within your 30-day window, and you may be able to alleviate that pain of going through what I went through by accepting the return and just dealing with from there, because you still are protected as long as you are a top rated seller and you have a 30-day return window. You have seller protections where you can actually deduct up to 50%. Or if you are above standard, you can offer 30-day free returns and still have those same protections. But those are just some of my suggestions just to help possibly prevent you from getting a payment dispute or a chargeback in the future. I hope you're as happy as I am with the outcome of this. I hope that, first off, that you never have to deal with this. I just hope that sellers and buyers can do the right thing going forward. But if you ever find yourself in a situation where you do have a payment dispute, look at all your options. Call eBay still and ask for some guidance from them. And there are plenty of other videos of people here on YouTube that have had situations that might be similar to yours, but make sure that you put as much information as you can in that response to help win your case. And you must, I stress, you must respond in the time that they give you, because if you don't, it's going to automatically get closed and you're going to be responsible for that $20 fee. And if you do unfortunately find yourself on the other end and being denied the claim, then even though you'll be assessed that $20 fee from eBay, you can sometimes call them, plead your case. And I have heard multiple times of eBay actually refunding that $20 back to you. So with all that said, if you are currently going through a payment dispute and you found this video to possibly help answer some of your questions, I hope I did that. And I wish you best of luck. And for those of you that just clicked on this video because you want to know what possibly to do if you get one, well, I hope this helped answer your question too. But thank you for watching. I will have more videos coming out in the future. I appreciate you all. And please like, subscribe, make comments. And again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye and keep grinding.